Hello Battlecats players, my name is Chance and welcome to my guide. Today we are going to be covering what is, at least in my eyes, one of the best tankers in the entire game. Not to mention a personal favorite unit of mine. Today we're going to be looking at the one, or I guess technically two, the only Sushi Cat. Sushi Cat can be unlocked by playing the rare cat capsules, and let me tell you, this is probably one of the more relevant units in the game that we've covered so far, at least out of the gacha units. Maybe with the exception of Sanzo, but that's kind of the only obvious exception I can recall. In any case, it is my hope, as always, that by discussing really all there is everything to know about Sushi Cat and helping you become as informed as humanly possible, you can make a more informed decision on how to best use this cat, as well as how to best invest into them, if at all. Let's first get started by taking a look at Sushi Cat's evolutionary line. Starting out with Sushi Cat itself, whose description reads, "A cat that moves fast by spinning. The fresh meat can take a beating, area attack, reduce damage from red enemies, might weaken red enemies." And then at level 10, it will evolve into Fried Shrimp Cat, whose description reads, "A cat that moves fast by spinning, also get into Rock and Roll, area attack, reduced damage from red enemies, might weaken red enemies." And then at level 30, as well as introducing some Catfruit and XP, it becomes Row Cat. Don't get all salty just because you'll lose. Excellent defense and an area attack, resistant to reds, might weaken enemies. Very cool stuff. Also, this cat has some of the best animation and overall aesthetic in the entire game. I hope you please all take a moment to appreciate it. Now then, let's take a look at its performance. Sushi Cat is considered to be a tanker. Tankers are units that have extremely high HP and durability and are used to take hits from enemies without being knocked back. They often have health boosting abilities against one or more traits, and many of them have great attack power. Largely, you're going to want to use tankers on stages where either your meat shields need support or they're just outright useless. Most of the stages that would need them involve wave attack enemies or enemies that are able to do area attacks and wipe out huge stacks in one hit. In terms of pros, the Sushi Cat has very high health, good movement speed, low range. Under cons, you'll see long recharge time, high cost, and low attack power. And other considerations, you have resistant to red enemies, which means it takes 1/4 damage or 1/5 if you have the relevant fruit treasures, and there's a 20% chance to weaken red enemies to 50% damage, so essentially halving their overall DPS. Now, to the astute viewers amongst us, you may notice it kind of strange that low range is in the pro spot. Because of the ways that meat shields and tankers tend to work, you want your tankers to be taking as much of the damage as humanly possible. What this means is that having a lower range means it gets closer to the enemies, which means it's more likely to take the brunt of the force. Sushi Cat's fairly unique combination of being resistant to an enemy type and being able to weaken that same energy type effectively multiply its ability to absorb damage against the type in question, this case being reds, of course. And while the cons are certainly there are ways to mitigate them. Through the use of either cat combos or a rich cat, the long recharge time and high cost don't really matter, and for the low attack power, this cat is part of a pretty interesting combo that does help mitigate this, but that being said, you should never really be relying on your tankers for your sole damage output. You'll need some DPS units behind them. But what really lets this cat shine is its very high health pool, its resistance to red enemies, and its chance to weaken red enemies as well. Those three things in combination really go a long way towards making this cat viable at virtually every point in the game. So long as there's red enemies, of course. Now then, let's talk about some strategy while at the same time checking out some gameplay. One way to really look at this cat is to consider him the Kotatsu Cat for red enemies. While this is a fine comparison, it doesn't really do the cat quite justice. Sushi Cat is freaking phenomenal, Row Cat especially, but in terms of useful enemies, really anything you're going to want to keep away from your stack. So Boar, One Horn, Shy Boy, those are kind of the usual suspects. The fact that this cat can weaken as well as take damage means that it can get multiple attacks off, which increases its ability to weaken, and the area attack certainly goes a long way towards helping with that. In addition to that, the weakened enemies are less likely to do damage to the units behind them, even if they can kill them. Sushi Cat is also used to great effect against Two Can and Berserkory, and those are probably the units where it's most notably used, as it's just able to really effectively hold them back. And then of course you have the fact that this cat belongs to some pretty good cat combos, so it has a use case in your lineup even if the stage isn't solely made up of red enemies. Interestingly enough, this cat pairs very well with another unit we've covered on this channel, that being iCat. Essentially the way to use them in this case is to send out Sushi Cat to be able to really just serve as a wall as well as potentially weaken the enemy, and then you send out a couple of iCats to keep them virtually permanently frozen afterwards. From there it's just a matter of repetition until you just push the enemies back, kill them all, take over their base, and win the game. As far as specifics about the true form goes, its health pool is massive, hitting 300,000 health at level 30. And if you're really planning on like super boosting any units, Rokat's a pretty good option for that, as after level 50 it reaches over 1 million health against weakened reds, which is no small feat at all. There are also a few virtually solely red stages, or stages where red enemies are the biggest threat, that this cat just thrives on. Now then, let's talk about cat combos. So the first and most notable of Sushi Cat's cat combos is Cool Japan. This is a unit attack up, and it involves Ninja Cat, Sumo Cat, Samurai Cat, and Sushi Cat. It increases Cat's attack by 15%. While there is an argument to be made that it would be better to have 2 small attack ups versus 1 medium, I will say since a lot of these cats are easily obtainable, this might be a better option. Cool Japan is fairly notable as one of the better cat combos you get just out of the blue, simply because an extra 15% attack power, by and large, is pretty meaningful at virtually every point in the game. Only later on, once you get some more rare gacha units or things of that nature, are you able to unlock 2 small attack ups that make sense for the stage you're working on. It really is just a factor of application. Sushi Cat also has access to Bento Sushi, which is a starting money up of the medium variety, and involves Sashimi Cat and Sushi Cat, and allows the wallet to start with 500 cents. Well, not the most useful, and on many stages kind of useless. If you're running a rusher team, this isn't all bad in theory. If nothing else, it'll make it easier to upgrade your worker cat out of the gate. Now then, let's discuss what Catfruits you're going to need to true form this unit. You're going to need 1 green, which can be obtained every Monday, 2 purple, which can be obtained every Tuesday, 4 red, which can be obtained every Wednesday, 1 yellow, which can be obtained every Friday, and 1 epic, which should be obtained from any of the growing stages with the exception of Strange and Evil, and after completing an Ancient Curse, you'll gain access to the growing epic stages for a few hours every weekend, and you can get them there as well. And you will also need 500,000 XP, which is fairly standard for units of this rarity. Now then, I'm just going to flash all of you some stat screens pertaining to Sushi Cat and its various evolutions. In addition to that, I'm going to be reading out some trivia and talking about some channel related stuff. Rokat's Japanese description includes a pun on, I don't even know how to pronounce that. In the context of the sentence, it can mean that Rokat is willing to be anyone's opponent as many times as they want to if they become an enemy. Another possible meaning of the word is salmon roe, which is Rokat's identity. Very interesting. I really wish I could learn Japanese. I mean, I guess I always could, but man, it seems complicated. That's really the only bit of trivia for Rokat there. That being said, as far as channel updates go, keep an eye out for the channel breakdown for the month of August there. Should provide a couple interesting insights if you're curious how this channel's growing and what the plans are for the future. Of course, if none of those things really interest you, then I guess it doesn't really matter, but I don't know, man, it's kind of nice. In any case, thank you so much for everyone who's helped the channel grow until this point. It means so much to me, and I'm just hoping you continue to enjoy the content moving forward. Now then, let's move on to talents. As far as available talents go, Rocat has access to Resist Freeze, which reduces freeze duration by 16%, improves by 6% up to level 70, for a total NP cost of 125. Resist Slow, which reduces slow duration by 16% and improves by 6% per level, up to 70% total, for a total NP cost of 125. Defense and Attack Buff, which increase their respective traits by 2% per level, up to a maximum of 20%, for a total NP cost of 125. And Cost Down, which reduces the cost of the unit by 30 cents, 45 cents, and 60 cents, depending on what chapter you're in, per level, up to 300, 40, 150, and 600 cents, for a total NP cost of 125. My goodness, that was all a mouthful. So, unfortunately, the vast majority of these are situational and not really recommended to invest in. Resist Freeze and Resist Slow are just far too situational, and Attack Buff doesn't make a meaningful enough difference for this cat to be really super advised. Defense Buff is far and away the most useful upgrade for this cat, as that's kind of the reason he's sticking around. And Cost Down can make sense, however don't push this past level 5, as doing so will lock this cat out of a few restricted stages. There is also an Orb slot available for Sushi Cat. Really the best thing to put in here is Resistant against Reds, however a standard Resistant up is just fine if you don't have the red. And that about sums up all of my thoughts on Sushi Cat. Now that you know what I think about him, let's hear what all of you had to say. Ars9 says, one of the best anti-red tankers in the game, easily outclasses the likes of Cat Machine with its high health, weaken, and spammability. There's a reason why one of the ancient eggs is effectively a row cat for aliens. Also, he's part of Cool Japan, which is a pretty decent attack up medium combo. Very true across the board as always, Ars. Up next, the ever-present Bee Eater. He's like the best anti-red tank and probably one of the best tanks overall. I would agree with this. The idea of resistant as well as weakening for the same trait is pretty broken in terms of actual mechanics. And the interestingly named, well at least when paired with context, Gifted Bee TSCP says Sushi Cat is very useful to beat Hayana and is also used to beat Queen's Coronation. All very true, Gifted Bee. Cross/01 says, cool boys who can take the heat with Japanese flair. Don't stink even in room temperature. Fair enough, always with the wit. Courier Cat says best red tanker, which is high praise given the circumstances surrounding that comment. And at freaking stupid says red to the grave. And yeah, fair enough. There aren't a lot of red units that do well against this cat, really none that come to mind. And if you would like to be featured in this part of the video, be sure to comment on the community posts that are relative to the videos. And that about wraps up all there is to say about Sushi Cat. It is a very, very good unit. I would make an argument this is about as close to a must-have as you can really get, at least in terms of gacha units. It is just a really, really solid choice and has a very prominent potential to trivialize quite a few stages in the game. There are a ton of red enemies on a ton of stages, and as a result, this cat finds use cases at really every point in the game. But as always, let me know what you guys think down beneath in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe for Cat God's blessing, and as always, I will talk to you all soon.